All right, welcome everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Tim, how you feeling?
I'm excellent. It's Wednesday, and I'm going to say that, and you're going to say what, Alex?
I'm going to say it's almost Friday because I like the positivity there.
It's almost Friday. And by the way, for everybody in attendance, Alex says that starting on Monday. It's almost Friday. So anyway, it's the right mindset. I love it, Alex.
I think it's important to think the glass is half full,
So
and I
listen,
just like Friday.
let's talk a little bit about what we've got going on. Today is going to be a great session. A couple of housekeeping items. Be sure to put in the Q&A your questions. The main focus here is making sure we have enough time at the end to dive into as many questions as possible. So make sure to put your questions in there. We always love doing that as we finish up on this webinar topic, which is going to be surrounding the topic of income and having a better understanding of how the technology actually derives income and what the options are at a high level. So really what the customer experience is going to be. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then Alex, just having some fun. I'm anxious. We know this is the Figure Sales Success Studio. This is the Sales Success Series. And check this out, Alex. I got a new hat.
I
And
love it.
I'm gonna sport this baby right now. Oh
Oh, it says it
yeah.
on the back. I love that.
Sales success is where it's at. That's what our focus is. So, Alex, we have some exciting news outside of the topic of income that we're going to talk about today. But I want to say we now have the ability, loan originators now have the ability to upload their photo and their phone number. Is that right?
That is absolutely right, Tim. And that's something we really want to introduce right off the bat. So now you think about income. Let's go ahead and jump right into that because we made that enhancement a couple days ago. And this is something that we've been really excited about. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to show you my lead portal. And again, as always, this is a test website, so don't look at the names or the numbers too closely. But as that borrower goes through the application flow, there's going to be what's called a contact card. And I'm going to show you this kind of later on during the webinar. We can see what that looks like for the borrower side. Now, typically in the past, that has simply just had your name and has also had your email on there in the event they want to email you with questions. We have rolled out improvements over the course of the last couple of days here so that you are able to go through and you are not only able to then add your phone number, whatever contact phone number you would like. You know, if they have questions, they want to call you up, maybe talk about those initial offers, things of that nature. You can also now add on a photo of yourself. You can add on your company's logo, maybe your own personal logo, however you want to personalize this. And this information here that you put in your profile is going to show up on your contact card on every single page of the application they go through. So as soon as they begin that application, it's going to be personalized and have all your information right there at a glance at every single moment right there at the top of the page.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Alex, you know how excited I am over this. This is some feedback that over the last several months we've received from, honestly, all of you in the sales field. And so it's pretty exciting to have gotten that done. So hats off to our tech and engineer team. Alex, I think when we follow up with the webinar, we'll always send attendees to the webinar a copy of the recording. And Alex, I believe you actually have basically a one-pager document that revisits that topic, right? Go into the lead portal, upload your photo here. So if we could be
That is
sure to
correct.
include that would be great. We'll
Yeah,
also
we'll
be
have that.
mentioning it. Yeah, we'll also be mentioning it on the newsletter later this month as well. But for those of you in attendance on the webinar, you are some of the first to actually see and hear about this new enhancement. So awesome job, Alex. And so, hey, I don't know. What do you think? Let's see. We dove into the lead portal on our very first webinar, like how to even get started. Then we went from there and we dove into a couple other topics, right? And then now we're diving into the big one, and that is how to better understand or set the proper expectation, maybe is the best way to say it, with all of our potential clients as to what it's going to look and feel like to verify income. So, Alex, what do you say? You ready to do a little demo work, my friend?
That sounds good to me. Yeah, just as we said on our last webinar, right? I kind of skipped over income verification because it's such a hot topic. We wanted to dedicate a whole time for this. So what I'm going to begin with is I want to recap how our income verification system works because it may be a little bit different of a model than something you've seen in a more traditional loan process. So we're going to do a recap and then we are going to dive right into how the applicant's going to do it. We are going to see there, we're going to play around with it. We're going to have fun today. That's kind of the theme me and Tim like for it. So let's go ahead. Let's begin by beginning, as I like to say. If you've had my trainings in the past, some of this information may be very commonplace, as well as after this webinar, as a part of that after email, I'm also going to send you a documentation that details all this information. So don't worry, I got you covered when it comes to documentation. Now, for income verification, like everything we do, keep in mind it's fully automated, front to back. And the big strength of this, honestly, is the fact that someone can verify their income literally in minutes. That's something that I show on the test application, but you'd be surprised how many times people call up, ask tons and tons of questions, whereas I get them to just link their checking account and they're done. And they're very surprised by that. They're used to traditional where they, submit their checking statement, tax documentation, this and that, blah, blah, blah. This makes it incredibly easy for the client to just zip through that application, be done literally again. The goal is to get them done that day. Typically within 10 minutes, we just want them to go through the pages, but realistically, we want them to be done that day so they can either do e-notary, schedule notary. So income verification, it's automated to make it as fast as possible. Now, with income verification on the inquiry, you're going to put in the annual household income. Now, remember, this is annual. I've seen a lot of people put in monthly. Our system doesn't calculate that correctly. So you're going to put in the annual amount, and that is gross income, including bonus, because we like giving the clients the benefit. We want them to include their gross amounts. We want to include bonus, everything that is going to help them get this HELOC we want on there. And a lot of the times, we don't even need to fully verify the stated income, just enough for whatever offer they selected. And we'll kind of get into that. So you're going to put in the annual household income on that inquiry. This is going to be that primary applicant's income. And if they're in a community property or homestead state, they can include a spouse. Now, Tim, I get a lot of questions on this. Don't worry, I am going to send out a document with the state list, I promise. Very clearly, you're going to be able to see exactly what states. There realistically are not many where a spouse can't be included, but just double check when you're doing that inquiry.
Yeah, and Alex, you're exactly right. And I know you've said it, but I'm of course going to beat the topic up some more. And that is, please, everyone note that it says annual gross income. And the reason is Alex, you may or may not know this, but all of us are loan originator type. We're very much trained to think monthly income. And so I commonly will see that come through like, hey, I'm surprised this borrower didn't get an offer. Well, it's because the loan officer stated monthly. And of course, then the DTI is 700%. And we all know that that won't work. So anyway, I really want to drive that point home. Annual, think annual, annual, annual.
And one other thing with spousal income, it's exclusive of title ownership. So as long as they're in one of those states where we can include it, throw the spouse's income on there. We can have them on there. They don't need to be on title or anything like that. Now we have four main methods. I'm going to save this part realistically when we get into the application and we have some fun with it. But again, we have checking, taxes, payroll providers, and asset accounts as the main automated methods to verify. There are literally thousands, tens of thousands of different options, depending on how they link up. So if they go to link checking, that's via Plaid. They're going to be given an option of about 10,000 different options, institutions, Chase, Wells Fargo, whatever it is, they can link it up. So it just depends on their situation. They don't have to do a particular method. They just have to do one or the other. They have to do something to verify. And I highly recommend checking as the first step, but we're going to get into that. And then the other thing is that they can absolutely upload their pay stub or their spouse's pay stub or any award letters, things like Social Security award letter, disability award letter. There's some situations we'll look at some things like child award payments or pension, but keep in mind, this all goes through an automated system and we do not have underwriters. Again, we want the strength to be the speed. So therefore, we're not going to accept checking statements, tax documentation. We don't have anyone to manually review that. In fact, we literally cannot go into the system to manually put in the income. We have to go through certain methods for the system to read that. So just keep that in mind, and we're going to take a look at the options when we get on that application. And quite finally, this is something I also want to stress. Because it is automated, because that system is running, it runs in the background constantly, even though you can't see it. Trust me, it's there. And so that automated system is going to calculate offers based on the income they verify. So if they verify enough income, even if maybe it's not the stated income, they can be clear to proceed. If they don't verify enough income, but they're not clear to proceed, it may give them alternative offers. They don't need to cancel reapply. You don't have to do a new inquiry or anything like that. It's going to take that income they verified, it's going to calculate all that up instantaneously almost, at least in my mind, and then it's going to let them know, hey, this is what you qualify for. But again, they can link via different methods. The one thing I will say is that these methods don't stack. Please keep that in mind. If, for example, I do checking, it doesn't verify enough, so I link taxes, we're going to take the highest of the two. They can do, say, multiple personal checking, they can do joint checking, things of that nature. Those can kind of combine. We can do, say, multiple pay stubs if they want to include their spouse in their own right. Those can combine. But the methods themselves will not stack. But they are welcome to try the different methods. And again, once they verify enough, the system's just going to have them go to the end step there. So that's income verification in a nutshell, I should say.
Okay, thank you everybody for attending. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure everyone gets it now, right? Yeah, no, there's a lot that goes into this. And really, again, for the loan originator perspective, I think what's most important here, Alex, is as a loan originator, being able to properly set the expectation, because of course, linking to these sources of income is not done by us, the loan originator. It's done and completed and driven by the borrower. And so when we're on the phone with the borrower and letting them know, hey, it looks like you have an offer for $100,000, and you hit proceed and it sends the link to the borrower. We've looked at that in past webinars. It's important for the loan originator, my opinion, to make sure to set the proper expectation with the borrower. So this is one of the very first things, once they get past disclosures, as you know better than I do, Alex, this is one of the very first things they're going to get to is verifying their income. And so I love it. And I think you're going to show us a few more things here. And I love having conversations on this topic. So I'll give it back to you, Alex.
Wonderful. I actually really liked what you said, Tim. Setting expectation. That's what I really want to focus on with this particular webinar. So as long as you understand it, the important thing is you bring that understanding before they begin the application. Here's what happens from my perspective, or at least from my experience in all my years using this HELOC, is the client starts the application. They go through the first couple steps that take them literally a couple seconds per page. They just fill in the information, they select their offer, and then they get to income verification. And this is where if they are not properly set with the expectations of how it's going to work, what they need, well, then they get really confused. And that's where they're going to email you, call you. That's where they're going to contact our support line or chat in, right? Which they are more than welcome to do. Don't get me wrong. But I find it very, very successful if you properly set the expectation of saying, hey, first and foremost, checking is always going to be the quickest option. Is from our own experience, our own data, I can back this up with numbers, but trust me on this, checking is going to be the quickest for most borrowers. A majority of them will just link it up and they'll be done. And the big strength of this also is the fact that the next page, they're going to select that disbursement account where the funds are going to go into. They select a checking account, they want the funds to go there. It's knocking out 2 pages in one go. So they're getting through faster. So you can tell your client, hey, this is what to expect with the application. Have your username and password ready for your checking account. Have it ready, at least for disbursement, right? At least where they want the money to go to, so they can have it ready for that because they're going to need to link that up. But you would be surprised how many people will ask me, ask our op center, ask loan officers, all these questions about income verification, to which point I direct them to checking, they link it up, and they are done. And then they move on, right? We don't need paperwork. We don't need this and that. It is surprising how much that system can pull in. And again, they
Well,
can do multiple personal, they can do checking, joint, whatever it may be. Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
no, that's okay, Alex. I love everything you're pointing out here. And again, setting the expectation. If we're telling the borrowers up front, like, listen, be prepared to have your username and login ready for your personal bank accounts. That's awesome. Now I want to take it one step further, Alex, and let's have some fun here. There are going to be borrowers that get a little edgy about that. Like they're concerned about the security of the information. And so, Alex, can you verify for us all, please, that the interesting piece of this is we actually never retain or see the borrower's login information to their accounts. Is that accurate?
That is absolutely true. And so that's something to kind of pull back the curtain. So say, for example, they link through checking. That's going to be through a third-party vendor Plaid. That number one has 256-bit encryption on that to make sure it's safe. But we don't save the password, nor do we really save tons of their information. We're not going to be pulling in all their checking account information and archiving it. This isn't information we're going to sell. Quite honestly, what's going to happen is Plaid is going to do a security check to make sure their name is on there, making sure everything's okay. And then we're going to be looking at deposits, and our system's going to calculate those deposits up for gross income. That's it. It's there for income verification. We're not saving anything, Tim. And in
Right.
fact,
And
there's very little we pull.
yeah, and I just bring it up because, of course, I talk to lots of loan originators every day, and this comes up from time to time, and I get it. A borrower might get concerned, because they just saw on the news some company was hacked or something, But trust me when I tell you, this is not information we retain. It's not like we forever have access to their bank account. We just don't have the data. So.
And that's something too, we're only looking past the last 3 months when it comes to their checking account. And again, only certain information on there. Now, there are ways, of course, if they don't feel comfortable with this kind of technology, where we have methods such as the other methods we'll talk about, such as they can still upload their pay stub if they want to do that. And then for disbursement, if they don't want to link an online account, they can just put in their account routing number. But this stuff requires a manual security check. We're going to actually do a manual fraud review that can then take time, typically 1 to 2 business days. So that is going to extend out that application period. So again, really set the expectation of what this application is. And it is so much quicker and easier when clients go in, they link an online account, either checking, taxes, whatever it may be, get through income verification, link their account for disbursement. And by that point, they're done with the application. They just have to put on the finishing touches. We do a final check to make sure everything looks good, and we get them over to notary. Now, with that being said, because Tim, you raise a really fantastic point there, make sure to set the expectation of what this application is. That's the biggest thing to me as well, because not only is this going to be an online application, everything after funding is also going to be online. So all of their statements, their 1098s are going to be online. So are going to be payments, redraws, everything's through that online account. So make sure they understand, hey, this is a technology-driven product. That's how we can fund so quickly. That's also going to be what's going to happen post-funding and everything they're going to use. And again, maybe this is the first time they've ever used an online application. That's fine. They're going to have you for support as well as our full ops center that's open every day of the week, including weekends. They can call or chat in for immediate assistance, but set that expectation. Hey, there's going to be income verification. It's not going to ask for documents. It's going to want you to link an online account. Let's talk about that. Let's see, hey, let's talk about your situation. Does checking work better? Let's talk about to see if taxes works better. We'll go through these steps. I also like to say, hey, have an ID photo ready for the identity verification. It's a little bit outside of income verification, but again, making sure you don't just do the inquiry and say, great, click on the link, do the application, I'll talk to you later. Making sure they're set up for success so that this is a really quick, again, 10-minute application is the goal. It is borrower driven, so they need to be prepared for the application the best they can be, is at least the way I say it.
Yeah, I love it. Expectation is everything.
All
So
right, Tim.
do you want to have some conversations, a little bit deeper dive into maybe some income topics that come up, Alex? Are you ready?
I like that very much. Go right ahead.
So again, I want to share everything from a street level perspective, right? Remember, I am a loan originator, have been for 25 years at some capacity or another. So I get it. I understand what clients, the questions they ask, and again, the importance of setting the proper expectation, because remember, I always say it, everything we're doing here with the technology looks and feels and acts completely different than everything we're all used to as loan originators. So here's an example. Can it be done for self-employed? It's a common question. The answer, Alex, is of course, yes. We can do it for self-employed. Does it get a little trickier? Yes, it does. So I want to talk about this for just a little bit. When you're talking to a client and you've gone in and you're doing your inquiry and you see that they have offers and they've told you that they're self-employed, I want to encourage you all to take a deeper dive into that conversation and find out how, if at all, they pay themselves. Why is this important? Because if they're paying themselves into a business account, remember, the system won't link to business accounts. In a situation like that, you'll then want to drive the conversation to that of, okay, well, what do your tax returns indicate you have as taxable income? Now, we all know as originators that when we start going down that path, so many self-employed folks, following the rules, of course, doing what they should, they've reduced their taxable income considerably, right? That's one of the benefits of being self-employed. So you just kind of need to know that going in, what's the best way to drive them for verifying their income. On the crossover from that would be, let's say you're talking to a self-employed borrower and they have an LLC corporation, they W-2 themselves, they're on a regular cadence payroll into their personal bank accounts. Well, that self-employed borrower, you should be just fine. Would you agree with that, Alex? You would be just fine linking to their personal bank accounts.
Absolutely.
So I have a great example to give everybody just to kind of help set the stage to how some of this income verification works from a bank statement perspective. I was helping a loan originator a couple months back, husband and wife, but just the wife was the borrower on the file. Remember, we only have one borrower, but using spousal income, household income, for lack of a better term. The husband was a wage earner. The wife, our borrower, was a cosmetologist, self-employed. They linked to their personal bank accounts. The only income it pulled was, in fact, the husband's wage earner payroll deposits. And they were questioning, like, well, how come it didn't pull any of the cosmetologist deposits? Here's the why. She's paid $40 one time from Venmo, $100 from PayPal, $200 from a personal check, without any consistent source, cadence, or amount. And Alex, you can correct me if I've said that wrong, but I hope everybody sees that. So in that case, what we had to do is then switch gears and link to their tax transcripts through our portal. Interestingly enough, it did work, because now we pulled her, not only did we have his wage earner income, but we also had her Schedule C income, and it worked fine. But knowing that going in, like, listen, the way you are paid as self-employed, there's a good chance the technology doesn't pick those deposits up as income. So yes, we link to bank statements, but don't think that it's all deposits, because it's certainly not, right?
That is absolutely true, Tim. And we see a lot of success when it comes to taxes. More than 60% in total of our borrowers go through an irs.gov account. So it is something where if they don't have a tax preparer on the list, that's fine. They can link an irs.gov account. They don't have one. I think it took me like 15 minutes to make one. It was not the easiest process, but it definitely was very quick, I should say. So they can make an account, link that up right after they make it, and then boom, they'll be golden. So that's usually what I suggest is, again, try checking first, because again, they can use it for disbursement, but for most self-employed individuals, a lot of the times these questions will come up. Taxes is going to be really golden there for them to just link up tax preparer or irs.gov, either or. And right now we're taking 2023 taxes. Keep that in mind. So it has to be their 2023 taxes, no extensions.
Yeah, by the way, Alex, I'm not sure if you know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So much in regards to the traditional loan business, if you will, the mortgage business. Anytime we're dealing with a self-employed person, we typically have to obtain 2 years of tax returns, but that's not the case in our system, is it?
That is not the case in our system. So
We're
this is a
just going to
question
pull
I
the
get a
most
lot.
recent year, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Yeah, that's
This
awesome,
is
by the way. I
something.
hope everyone caught that because
Mhm,
as we know in the traditional lending scenario, a lot of times we're held to the fire on 2 years and average of 2 years. Our
mhm.
system will not do that. It will pull the most recent tax year transcripts to identify the income, so I think that's pretty huge.
Yeah, and I'm going to double down to say I'm asked that a lot by loan officers,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what I say is, hey, throw out your notions that you've had in the past. This is the new way to do it. Again, we will take 2023 taxes only. And the big strength of that is the fact that we don't have to go back multiple years. Like Tim said, we're not averaging that out. They simply just link a tax preparer service or irs.gov. We look at the 2023, as long as they don't have an extension or anything, boom, we'll get that verified. They can do joint taxes if they got a spouse. And it's going to let them know exactly how much it verified. And once they verify enough, it'll get them to move on. And that can again happen literally in minutes. It
Yeah,
happens right there.
so it's a great lead in here to a thought I just had pop into my brain. And that doesn't happen a lot, everybody. So take advantage of it. So here's what's interesting about that. So let's just play this out, Alex. It's a self-employed borrower. They've told me they make $200,000 annually. I put that in, I get my offers, I send the application link over to them, and they have to link to their tax return transcripts because they're self-employed, business accounts only. And so now we're in tax land. And the only amount of income that was verified was 30,000. There were no offers as a result, right?
Mhm.
So how long do you think all that took? Considering borrower responsive to the link, the borrower clicked on the link, went in. I advised them as their loan originator, listen, go straight to the tax return transcripts because I knew that bank statements weren't going to work, right? Especially after having this conversation. The borrower does that and the amount of income verified is way less than what will work. How long do you figure all that took?
Realistically, uh, depending on how long they take to look over offers, 5 minutes, maybe
Okay,
10 minutes if they want to look it over. It will happen again. Those first couple pages will take them seconds just to answer a couple questions and move through.
here's my point to that, everybody. Yes, it's going to take a few minutes for the borrower to get through that process. And yes, it's possible that in that self-employed situation, their tax transcripts will not evidence enough income. Is there a fix for it with us? No. They are given these options to verify income. We can either verify enough income or we cannot. Here's the magic I want to drive home to everybody. The real magic there is even if it didn't work, it only took a couple of minutes to figure that out. Now you as a loan originator are making an educated decision as to what your next best move is and best strategy with your client. Use this as a starting point. Drive them through the platform. If it works for self-employed and you're able to verify the income, you're golden, you're moving on, everything's great. 5 days later, everyone's celebrating, right? If it doesn't, then just acknowledge it only took a minute amount of time for that to be the case, shift gears and move on to whatever the next strategy is.
And I want to tack on to that too. Just keep in mind, we don't pull hard credit until after income verification, after they link disbursement, everything like that to really the last step of getting final offers. So if this event happens where they can't verify income through us, and like Tim said, if you shift gears, just soft credit. Doesn't trigger any liens. It was just a soft credit
That's a
pull through Experian. It only
great
took a couple
point.
minutes.
That's a great point, Alex. I'm so glad you brought that up. So listen, I know we've covered income at a very high level. Alex, I believe as the follow-up to the webinar, which you always do a great job of, I think we probably have a link to a resource, a designed client-facing tutorial video for income verification, right? As to what it looks and feels like for the borrower.
Yes, absolutely. We do
Maybe
have
we
a
can
demo video for that.
maybe we can include that if that's okay.
Absolutely.
for them to take a look. By the way, when you all see that, I want to encourage you to, one, watch it, have your own grasp of what the borrower experience is going to be. And then also don't hesitate to share that with your borrower to further set the proper expectation. I think that's the real key there. Alex, do you want to jump into some Q&A? We don't have a ton, but we have a few questions here.
Absolutely. We can go right ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead and pull
so
up the Q&A box.
first question, can an individual LO make changes to their portal? It seems to be indicating for this user, unable to make changes. Yes, you should be able to make changes in regards to adding a photo. You can't, the loan officer can't make changes regarding licensing and that type of stuff. Is that accurate, Alex?
That is true. So what you're going to have is you're going to have organization administrators. Just depends on what your organization you're with. So contact your internal support team. You can absolutely go in there. You should be able to change your contact phone number, add in your middle name if you'd like to, add in that photo. But for things like licensing, keep in mind your administrators will have to do that. Your email can't change. Keep that in mind. You're tied to your profile. But if you're having any difficulties, if you have any questions, if you need licensing updated or anything like that, contact your internal support because your admins have complete control over the lead portal system on their end to make modifications and changes to your account. So reach out to them. They can probably help you right away.
Yeah, but as far as uploading the photo and putting your phone number, the LO can do that.
Oh, absolutely.
But beyond that, no, you're exactly right, Alex. So thank you. And then it says, how do we handle a person who wants to take the full draw but not use it? So yes, you're right. It is a full draw. So let's talk about this for a little bit. And Alex, you can keep me on track if I get too far off in the weeds here.
Sounds good.
But as far as everything the borrower is going to see, it's going to say they can pay it back anytime they want. Okay, there is no prepayment penalty. There is no harm, no foul, none of that. First and foremost, any principal reduction of 10% or more will automatically result in a recasting of the payment. Okay, so let's talk about this scenario for a second. Someone gets a line of credit of $100,000. They're looking to do debt consolidation, but they only have $50,000 they want to pay off. Yes, a borrower could pay off the $50,000 and then they could make a lump sum payment of $50,000 back to their account. Their payment would come down as a result, and then they would have the whatever term they chose draw period of that additional 50 at a later date. Did I say that okay, Alex?
You said that very well.
You keeping me on track here? I want to make sure. You know what? You know us loan officer type, you know. However, if a borrower pays back 90% or more within the first 16 weeks, that would be considered, by the way, no harm, no foul to the borrower. But that would then fall in that first 16 weeks, that would fall into an EPO concern. And that differs with all of our partners. So if you have any questions about that, where you land in regards to that, you can certainly reach out to me and I'll help walk you through that. It's not really an issue. If I'm being honest, we don't see a lot of that because of the type of product it is. So just know that 90% or more of principal reduction paid in the first 16 weeks would be considered an early payoff. No harm, no foul to the client, but there are some ramifications back with our lending partners. So just reach out to me directly to dive into that further. Then there is a question, is there a rate chart? Yes, we do have rates. We send them out to the admins or points of contact with all of our partners. Anytime rates change, and by the way, they don't change daily, but when they do change, we have a phenomenal team that sends those out. So check internally with your team to see who has those rate sheets. Again, I can get them to you if you want to reach out. We can do that as well. And I get it, so that you're comparing options against competitors, that type of thing. Is there a minimum disbursement? The minimum disbursement is the full disbursement. It will always be a full draw at close. And adding on to that is the figure program used for the UHM bridge loan product.
So for that, I'm not entirely sure if UHM has their own particular bridge loan product. Just know the figure HELOC, this particular one can be used on homes listed for sale. So if that is something where they are listed, you absolutely can do that. And that is something where that would be in the inquiry itself. I would double check though internally with UHM just to make sure. As in with properties listed for sale, there are going to be differences in the underwriting as well as there can be lower economics when it comes to things like comp. So absolutely we can do HELOCs on homes listed for sale, but for specifics when it comes to that kind of thing, double check with your internal support team just to make sure you get all the requirements and rules when it comes to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we do see loan originators using this very much with their clientele as that bridge loan product. So it's a good use case. I mean, interestingly enough, I get a lot of feedback that loan officers go, wow, you can actually do this on a home listed for sale. Yes, you can. And it's in the lead portal. It indicates it. So, make sure if that's the case, you choose that box. It does change some of the underwriting criteria, CLTVs, that type of thing, but not by much. It's pretty powerful. So I love this question from Sophia. Can you each give your titles and how you're connected to Figure? So Alex, you go first, my friend. Hit me with it.
All right, I like it. My name is Alex Nichols. I am the partnership training coordinator here with Figure. I handle all the trainings when it comes to our partners for this particular product when it comes to white label. So if you've had any onboarding training, you've probably seen me either live or in a recording, as well as I do the scheduling and ongoing training with our partners. So I'm usually around when there's some sort of knowledge to spread. All right, Tim, I'll have you go then.
I love that. And I am Tim Rowen, names on the screen there, of course. Also nicknamed over the years, a lot of people refer to me as T-Row, and I am the Director of Sales Success. And that sounds crazy, right? It's like, what in the heck kind of title? Listen, my commitment is to all of you and all of our partners. And how do we better adopt tips and tricks, best practices? How do we take advantage of this technology? I am the Director of Sales Success. That's you, and that's my title there. So next question is what's a good way to contact either of you if you have any questions? In regards to that, depending on the questions, you can always lean on me, but first start with your internal admins at the company. They also have instruction with a direct link back to the wholesale customer support or sales support. And in which case that's things like, not sure why I didn't get offers. I'm not sure why the file declined. Curious about the status. Borrower having trouble uploading something. Great. Go back through your own admin points of contact. They'll then escalate that back through our team. Now, tips, tricks, best practices, adoption techniques, use cases. You can definitely reach out to me for that. And Alex, when you send the follow-up to this, I will be sending follow-up as well to all the attendees, and you will have access to my contact information, and maybe most importantly, a link to my calendar. If you ever want to schedule time with the sales success team, you'll be able to schedule time directly with me on my calendar. So that's awesome. And then I'm going to let you answer this next question. Alex, can you please explain when hard credit is pulled and inquiry is done? You said after income is verified and original offers are presented. So Alex, it's all you, buddy.
What a fantastic question. So
Great
let's
question.
go ahead and take a look at that. So what's going to happen here during the application flow is first and foremost, the inquiry is just soft credit. It is, again, not going to trigger any leads. It's nothing crazy. It's going to go through Experian. So once that client goes through the application process, and I'm going to share my screen, they're going to go through a couple things to get to income verification. They're going to start the application. They're going to select their offer based on what's available in that pre-qualification. They're going to provide more information. So this is going to be things like marital status. This is where they're going to provide their full social and consent to a hard credit pull, but we're not going to pull hard credit yet. We're just going to ask them a bunch of information, including the HMDA questions. And then they're going to get to income verification. And again, they can go through whatever methods they would like based on what's available on their employment type here. So we can see checking is always going to be the quickest, but if we want to do other options, we absolutely can do so. We just need to verify enough income to proceed with the offer we chose. And the underwriter is always going to run in the background. And we can see here, what I really like is my contact card here on the right. So again, your contact card is always going to be displayed. whatever logo, whatever photo you upload, if any, your contact phone number, if you upload it, and your email is always going to be visible for them to contact. Now to get to the question, right? Kind of rambled a bit, but let's get to the question here. When is hard credit pulled? It is pulled after income verification. So once I verify income, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my disbursement account where I want the funds to go into. Then we pull hard credit. There's not going to be a page for it. There's not going to be a screen. It's not going to alert the client in any way because we've already asked them for consent. We've already done everything, and most things happen in the background anyway. So what's going to happen is we're going to pull the hard credit. We're going to do a final AVM. And why the system's doing all of this, they're going to go through that verification of identity, where they're either, I should say, going to upload a photo of their ID, or they can just take a photo if they're on a mobile device. They're then going to be presented with their final offers. Now, this is where they're going to see, hey, this is your final offer. They can modify their final offer if they like to. And then from there, it's downhill. They're going to sign their docs, add on any additional signers if there are any, then we'll get them over to notary. But again, keep in mind, income verification is before hard credit, and then we're not going to do it till afterwards because we want them to verify, select their disbursement account, get everything done. And then at the literal last moment, we're going to pull a hard credit to do final offers to wrap up everything.
Yeah, I love it. Great answer. And by the way, just to make sure everyone's clear about this, let's just again play through the scenario where not enough income was verified. No hard credit will be pulled, correct?
That is correct.
That is correct. So the only time hard credit will be pulled is if the amount of income has been verified for there still to be a good offer. And that's when hard credit gets pulled. But if not enough income was verified, again, no harm, no foul. The only credit that would have existed would have been the soft pull at the LO level at time of inquiry. So another question on the 100K, then pay 50K back scenario, can they access the 50K later? They absolutely can. Our redraw terms for subsequent disbursement, if you will, or draws, is on a 30-year, it's a 5-year draw period. 15 is 4, 10 is 3, 5 is 2. Right? So those are the draw periods based on whatever term they choose. And we do mostly see 30-year terms, but so on that 5-year draw period. Used as a bridge loan, I love this question. I'm so glad it's being asked. The sellers would have to wait to sell the house for 16 weeks or our comp gets clawed back. Yes and no. If when you're doing the inquiry, you know that they're listing the home, you know that's their intent, maybe it's currently listed already, please choose yes, home listed for sale. When you do that, it reduces the comp, that's the reduced economics that Alex mentioned, and it eliminates the EPO. Okay, so that's the difference there. So make sure you choose that. And then as the LO, are we able to see what they've uploaded on their application on our pipeline? Alex, I'll let you take that. I think what they're talking about, the question is really asking, okay, the borrower uploaded their photo ID. The borrower uploaded a pay stub. Does the LO have the ability to see that in Lead Portal in the document section?
So yes, that is something that you are going to be able to see certain documentation within the Lead Portal system. Just keep in mind, however, this is something where we are going to have a full ops center who's going to be reviewing this kind of documentation. And if we need anything, we will follow up with your client as well. Let's say, for example, they upload a document we can't accept. This may be a situation where we give your client a call to say, hey, this is what we're looking for, and we have a discussion with them based on income verification. So absolutely, right? You're going to have your contact card on there. You're still going to be in the driver's seat, but just know we're going to do everything we can to make this easy on you. You are going to have visibility into most things on the application, and we're expanding this over time. But for example, I have Carlos here. He's an income verification, right? We just saw that when I showed the borrower side. I can see they're in income verification. So if I go into the details, I'll be able to see, okay, great. In this case, they've stated about 200,000. How much have they verified? But again, in this particular case, it is up to them to link up, to move through. They have to go through that experience. You can track it. You're going to get email notifications as they go through this milestone. You'll be able to see documentation, both signed, unsigned, certain things that are uploaded here in the document section. But again, we're going to try to take care of everything for you through our ops center to try to make it as quick as possible. Because again, a lot of the times when, say, maybe a pay stub's uploaded, we have to do a manual security review of the document just to make sure that there's no fraudsters or anything like that. And then we put it into the system. So this is something where you can advise them. Borrower can call in to expedite the process if they want, but we're on the case for every single application.
Awesome, great answer. And another question here, can we edit or correct borrower income? The truth of the matter is no. Once you get past a certain phase and that borrower's been notified and they've begun the application, there's no going backwards and saying, oh, shoot, I should have added the spouse's income. In that scenario, good or bad, you have to actually cancel that inquiry and begin a new one. That's the one thing. There's no going backwards in our system. Another question is the AVM the only option? The short answer is yes. There is the ability right now today, if no AVM results were found, you and the borrower will be given the option to order what we call a BPO, or think of it as like a drive-by appraisal. But that's the only time right now today that will come up, is if no AVM results are found. And then another question is, what is the max CLTV? Primary residence is 85, non-owner is 70. Listed home for sale is 80. Trying to think if I'm missing anything in there, but
Not particularly.
Yeah.
For primary residents, it depends on their FICO score. There's FICO bands particular for the CLTV. Right. You can look at internal documentation, but Tim's absolutely right. 85% for primary, 70% for secondary is the big ones.
And another question here, how do you determine the equity available? That is done at point of inquiry, in large part based on not just the borrower picture with the soft pull and the credit, but also in fact the AVM. And that's what we're going to go off of, is that AVM for determining the equity available. FICO score. Alex, you can take a look. I think we may have, does household income apply to spouse only? Can income from other household members be included? This is a great question, Alex. I'm going to put this one on you, my friend.
I like this very much, honestly. So this in particular, the very short answer is it has to be a spouse. So we are not going to take sons or daughters, grandparents, anything like that. We are in particular looking for spousal income. So again, it has to be in a community property or homestead state. You can add them on. Again, we are not going to say pull that individual's credit. We're not going to ask for really any more than them to verify, but it is something to consider that, say they're in a situation where they have maybe another family member or someone else, it has to be spouse. So keep that in mind when we're going to ask for that total annual income, primaries, and perhaps a spouse. That is going to be the only additional in those circumstances.
Fantastic. Well, Alex, my friend, I think we answered all the questions. I will say this. My thought here is again, path of least resistance. When we're speaking to borrowers that have an interest, a need, maybe a HELOC is one of the strategies you're considering with your client. Start here. Let me say it again. Start here. I'm going to say it one more time. Start here, because the point I'm trying to drive home is this is your fastest way to find out what, if any, options exist. It's okay. Remember, it's okay if no offers are presented, because it only took you a couple minutes to find that out. Then you shift gears, whatever your strategy is going to be, and help your client in a different fashion. But start here. We do have a new question. If a customer purchases a home that needs to be updated for below market price, can this be used? I'm trying to decipher this question, Tracy.
So let's talk about that actually. So very particularly, a couple things to note. Number one, For purchase mortgages, there needs to be a 90-day seasoning requirement. And the reason for that is that it needs time for, quite simply, our systems to have the most recent up-to-date information. So that when it does the AVM pull, we want to make sure that we are pulling, one, accurate information, and two, it's going to pull recently what happened. So in that particular event, say they go through, they purchase a home, one, we need to wait the 90 days. Let's say a lot of times people want to do renovations, from my experience, a lot of times kitchens. But say they want to do that, they wait the 90 days. Again, we're going to go by the AVM. So you can do an inquiry, and in the inquiry, you'll be able to see exactly what that AVM pulled. You'll also get an AVM report. But again, there's no manual way currently to go around that. We are quite simply going to go through the AVM. You'll be able to see exactly what their pre-qualified offers are and go from there. So depends on what they pull exactly from publicly available information and the rest of the information. And we have a couple of vendors for the AVM, so it's kind of a waterfall effect to make sure it's pulling accurate and true information for that AVM itself.
I love the other question. How do we compare to large banks? We actually compare very, very well. In regards to rates is how I assume you're asking the question. And so we're right on par. A point I want to make here, it's interesting that a lot of the larger banks have actually run for the hills on this. Most of them aren't even doing lines of credit anymore. There are credit union options, and you'd have to just compare, what works best. Now, where there is no comparison is, in fact, how quickly it can be done with very little effort, not only from just you, the loan originator, but also the client. And sometimes, again, path of least resistance and time is what wins, well, almost every time. So,
all right, wonderful. Thank you everyone for joining us today on this webinar. It looks like that was all the questions.
yep.
What we're going to do is we are going to send you an after email. More or less, it is going to have some information from Tim. It's going to have some information from myself, as well as some documentation detailing everything we talked about, income verification and more. So keep an eye on that. Later today, we should be sending that out. And with that, I will say thank you. Have a great week. And I will see you in 2 weeks for our next webinar, where we're going to be talking about the last steps of the application and the funding timeline, where we're going to talk exactly how that's going to work, including things like rescission and all the funness. So please join us then. Registration should be open after today.
I love it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Alex, thank you. Awesome job as always.
Thank you very much, Tim. Bye, everyone.
You guys.